What's going on, everybody? Got one of my dear friends, coaching students, and just overall badass realtor out in now New York. Wes, thank you so much for coming on, my man. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Henry.
Absolutely. So let's dive into things, man. How long you been in the business? Tell me a little bit about your story about before real estate and, what got you into the game?
Yeah, so I've been in real estate for a year and a half. I was licensed in September of 2020. Prior to that, I was doing software sales out in San Francisco. So I'm originally from the East Coast, doing real estate on the East Coast, but I worked my way up at a couple startups and did the West Coast life for a little bit. But my dad's been in residential real estate for 40 years and kind of felt the calling to come back.
I don't blame you. Wow. Out of everywhere you could go, you go to California and then you come back to the crazy state of Jersey. How dare you?
It's home, man. It's home.
I feel that, man. I feel that. So listen, let's talk about the first couple months in real estate. Tell me, was it hard? Was it easy? Did it come natural? What were the struggles? What were the easy parts?
It was challenging. And, it was a lot of self-starting every single day. Before that, I had somewhat of a schedule in my previous job in software sales. So I think trying to figure out what to do with each hour of my day was kind of a challenge. And then just getting busy, going out and starting to hunt for clients, putting myself out there and have conversations with people. That's what I realized, that most of my time was spent the first few months just letting people know I was in the business. I knew I was doing it. I was investing all of this time, but I realized like until a ton of other people knew that, then there wasn't going to be much business coming from that.
For the people listening, I just also want to shout you out real fast, bro, because you knocked it out of the park in your first, call it 12 to 14 months, whatever you want to call your first year in real estate, right? You knocked it out of the park. Most people don't do that in the first few years. So I want to talk about what was the switch for you, man? What was that key switch that really turned you from trying to get, it's like having the training wheels on to all of a sudden knocking it out of the park in your first year?
Thank you for saying that. I soaked up as much as I possibly could in the early months. I asked questions. I allowed myself to get mentored, to make mistakes, and I felt like I was constantly learning, and I didn't focus on the money for the first several months. I removed earning and income from the focus and just allowed myself to learn. And I think because I focused on that initially, that come months 4, 5, 6, it felt like I really started to pick things up just with the basic knowledge that I was learning. I think one of the things that I really found like a temporary niche with that was also kind of a turning point in several sales in a short couple month period too, was starting to work with people who are looking for their first investment property. It's something I'm interested in. And so it just naturally came up in conversation, and people love the idea of investing in real estate. And I realized that I could be their guy. I could hold their hand through that first deal, whether it was a duplex or a triplex. And so I got a couple quick wins that way by just holding their hand through that process and going through it with them. But I felt like the learning that I took the time to do in the first few months was what really started to translate into that second half of the year.
I love that, man. So let's talk about that transition a little bit. So we ended up connecting a few months into your first year. I know we were chatting a lot about what was going on and then the shifts you were constantly making. Dude, that shift is unbelievable. Because listen, my first year I did 2 sales, dude. I did like $1.5 million in business. Absolutely crushed it in your first year. So I commend you in that. I want to talk about the shift. Once you got involved, once we started connecting, what were the main specific shifts that you started making in your business?
In this market, it's incredibly challenging. I had 15 sales in the first year. The majority of them came from buyer side representation. And so it was tough. It was an uphill battle. But I realized that if I could just absolutely unequivocally get my client to trust me through the process by just being as caring, as hands-on, as loving to them as I possibly could in this crazy process. I noticed a lot of people who represented buyer clients that either they gave up as the broker or the client gave up. And I didn't experience that. And I think it was because I tried to really just keep it together, keep myself together, but keep the client and their expectations together. And so that was a really big shift for me.
I love when you said expectations. Setting powerful expectations is huge.
But then also too, and this is a testament to you, Henry, too, like just starting to get a focus. I was in the early months, you step into this big business, right? And you could be doing commercial, you could be doing residential, you could be doing both. But you step into this business and there's a lot going on, right? And it's like it's tough to kind of pick things like, hey, what do I want to focus on today or this week or this month? And this is a testament to you. Like we started working on that together. We started just taking one bite at a time and trying to get better at those millimeter steps of improvement. And I think that was huge, because when I look at all those steps that I've taken over the last year and a half, right, it's now gotten me really far, and I still have so much further to go. But it was just that acknowledgement that, like, hey, I don't need to just take in everything at once. If I can work on little things, that I'm going to get a lot better in this business.
Love that. Well, look, it's a great segue into, like, now let's talk about the coaching that you've got involved in, right? Like, what made you make the final decision? Like, you know what, I got to do this.
Get a coach.
Like, why get a coach? A lot of people question it. Like, a lot of people think about getting a coach, but not enough people actually pull the trigger. I've been getting coached for years and I'll always be coached. Like, why did you choose to get a coach?
Yeah. And you know what? I was in that boat for a few months. I was like, well, I don't know if I have time. I don't know if this. Honestly, all I had was time. That was just an excuse. I had more time than I knew what to do with. And that was kind of the problem, right? Was like, I made the decision to start working with a coach because I realized I didn't know everything. I knew a little bit. I felt confident in myself, but I needed to focus. I needed somebody to hold me accountable and to help me prioritize and set goals. And there's a lot of things I didn't know in this business in the early stages. And I think even people years into their business, they need to shift. And if you've been doing something either one way for a really long time, or you just don't know how to choose which path from the start, having somebody to guide you through that process, to me, has been a really, really great thing.
Yeah, I love that, man. And look, it was the same thing for me. I almost got to the point where I was like, I can't even imagine doing life without a coach. Right. I was just like, I need coaching that bad. I was just like, and I was crushing it. You were crushing it at the point. You know what I mean? Like, it's the enhancement that a coach can give you. So now that you've been in the program for a little bit, I mean, what were you feel like are some of your biggest takeaways so far?
Accountability is a huge one. I have to tell you every week, however often it is, what I'm going to be working on, what I'm doing. And if I don't do that, I got to come back and tell you that I'm not doing what I said I was going to be doing and what I said I was going to focus on, improve on, and work on. And to me, that's pretty critical, man. Like, we've developed a wonderful relationship over the last year, and from not just a coaching perspective, but now a friendship. But I don't want to come back and tell you that I'm not doing what I say I'm going to be working on, and your guidance and how much I appreciate that. It means something to me. So I think the accountability is a huge thing. I put the ideas and the focuses aside for a second, because I think that's probably more of an obvious thing that we're constantly picking new things to work on or improve or focus on. And that's just a given. That's such a huge benefit.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Listen, accountability, it's what people pay for. That's what we need, right? It's like, not that we don't know what to do in every moment. It's just the accountability of making sure I'm doing what I need to be doing. So let's talk about somebody like, what advice would you give to somebody right now? He's saying, like, you know what, I'm on the fence about coaching. Maybe I'll do it. I don't know if I got the money for it. I kind of do. I kind of don't. Like, does this make sense for me? What would you say to them? Like an earlier version of you.
There's two things I would say. One, related to the money. If you buy in, utilize the information that you are going to learn, there's an ROI that you can't even comprehend. If you don't have X amount of money to make that first step, well, then there's plenty of ways that you can do that. Get a loan from somebody, tell somebody, like, hey, this is what I want to do, because I promise you there is an ROI on it when you buy in and you actually do what you say you're going to do and what you're working towards. So that's one thing on the money front. And two, I think the biggest benefits that I've learned in life and in business is to just take a little leap of faith. Things are not going to happen if you don't take a shot at something. And that's in so many different aspects of life. Coaching was one of those scenarios for me where I was on the fence. I was thinking, do I want to do this? Am I too early in my career to do this? Maybe I should work for a couple years and figure out what I'm good at, what I'm not, and then try to leverage a coach. I think that was a big thought for me, was like, should I wait? And I kind of just was, I was like, why would I wait? Like, why would I potentially push success down the road a couple years, right? Like, I'm hungry now, I'm considering this now. And so there was kind of that urgency aspect for me. And I think that's a huge thing, is the urgency, that there's always going to be a better time down the road to do it. There's always a good excuse to say, well, I'm not quite going to be as busy then, or whatever the case. But you missed 2 years potentially of earning extra income, learning more, et cetera. So that was a long-winded way of saying.
Super well said, man.
Yeah.
Seriously, like I wish I could possibly quantify the percentage ROI on the amount of money I've invested versus what it's made me and what will make me in my lifetime. Because coaching has changed my life. Self-development has changed my life. And I can see that it's how much it's affecting yours. And it's amazing to watch. What would be some last minute tips that you give like a brand new real estate agent coming right out of the gate? They just were licensed today or licensed in the last 30 days. What do you say to them?
Stick with it. You're going to get beat up a little bit in the early stages. Stick with it, because you won't regret it. What you'll regret is going halfway and not buying in, and then going, well, what could have been, right? Stick with it. Number 2 is, you don't know anything yet. It's not even that you don't know everything. You don't know anything. You need to acknowledge that this is a business with a lot of information, a lot of areas to learn, but also a lot of areas to potentially screw up and make the wrong choice or decision. And I think that when somebody tries to know too much or thinks they know too much, it can get them in a lot of trouble. And so always asking for advice before making a big decision on a contract, or giving advice, or even sending an email sometimes, like something as simple as putting in writing. Don't assume you know everything. Always ask for advice, whether it's your broker or a mentor, because you have a lot to learn.
Beautifully said, man. Well, listen, I always appreciate you, brother. Again, to see your success over the last little period of time that we've known each other has been absolutely beautiful to watch, and so excited to see what you create in your life, man. So I appreciate this so much, and I'll see you in the next episode, man. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Henry.